Sherdog.com here with UFC 1 participant Zane Frazier. How did you find out about UFC 1?
Well, 1 year earlier, August 1992, I was fighting the Long Beach Internationals heavyweight championship for the Pro Karate Championships. And I got in a street fight with a guy named Woody Sims. He and I had this epic battle that we would go, and it wound up turning into a street fighting where I actually, again, what we call ground and pounded, which was always part of our Kempo system. And I got disqualified, and they sent me out of the gym. And this guy, this tall guy, Hispanic guy with this funny looking gi, it was not like a karate gi or a judo gi, it was just this weird looking gi. He said, "Hey, you like to fight?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Hey, let me show you this." So he showed me a videotape of these guys doing these no rules fighting. I said, "Hey, what kind of fighting is this?" And he says, "Oh, it's called Valley Tudo." And I said, "What's your name?" He goes, "My name is Rorion Gracie." I says, "Really?" He goes, "We're going to bring a fight like that to America." I said, "They're not going to let us fight like that." Says, "They can't even let me do karate full contact. What do you make them going to let us do that?"
How were you actually approached saying, "We want you to do this tournament, here's the date, this is what it's going to be," and how much time did you have to prepare for that?
We had a short period of time, because one of the things that happened to me is we got finally notification January of 1993, because that's the year I got married. So January 1993, we knew we were going there. February, I fought in the World Karate Championships, and I went into respiratory failure. And we kept it closed secret because we didn't want the Gracies to find out, or Art David to find out, because we had already they already told us that you were in, but it was a kind of a process at the time. We hadn't received a contract yet. So one of the things that had happened later on is that the Gracies wanted to see me fight. First, they wanted to see me. They wanted a videotape. They wanted a audition tape to see who, if you are worthy enough to be in the tournament, is what they said. We wouldn't send them the videotape because what we found out that there was a girl that I knew that was working for them. They said, "Hey, they're trying to study different fighters to see who they can beat." So we didn't send in the videotape. So what essentially happened is that they came out to the U.S. World Karate Championships at the Century Plaza Hotel back in July of '93, and I was fighting for a DRACA World Heavyweight Championship, and I got an altercation with Frank Dukes. Wound up when I was on top of him beating him up, LAPD kind of came in and put us both in handcuffs. And that's when Art Davey asked me, he said, "Are you Zane Frazier?" And I go, "Yeah." And he says, "I'm from the UFC." I go, "Hey, no." I tell him, I say, "Hey, I'll make bail. Don't worry, I'll be able to make bail. I'll be able to fight tonight." And he goes, "No." He goes, "You're in the UFC." So that's kind of how I got in.
Those early fights were style versus style, so you're really representing karate. Did you feel like there was any weight on you, like representing that art?
No, because Kempo. See, when the Gracies had fought a lot of Kempo guys, they cherry picked a lot of Kempo guys who weren't very good. They didn't come see me. They didn't come see me as a Kempo because I was the guy in Kempo. Ed Parker's American Kempo and Steve Sanders called Black Karate Federation, the BKF Kempo. I was the guy. And plus I was a guy who had been known in the nightclubs for the gangster rap guys. It was no pressure on me because this is what I was doing for this. This is what these guys, these bouncers, Ice-T and those guys, this is what these guys were paying me for. So it was okay for me because I was a street fighter who knew karate opposed to a karate guy trying to be a street fighter. So for me, it didn't have that kind of pressure that a lot of guys that came in trying to prove themselves. I already knew who I was. I just wanted to fight.
You get to Denver. You go to a rules meeting for an event with no rules. Brazilian promoter, his Brazilian brother is one of the competitors.
Sure.
Brazilian referee.
Sure.
Did you feel that there was anything, or did any of the fighters, did anyone talk about that? Did you guys feel like you were being set up for anything?
Well, I had mentioned, here's how we knew we were being set up. Prior to the rules meeting, we had Brazilian chaperones taking us around to different gyms that they had designated that we could only work out in. So essentially what happened is that I was doing a drill with some guys, I think his name was Jim Jones, and I was doing a drill where I was punching the bag, kind of a blitzing bag, and I was doing double leg takedown and double down, pound in, elbow it, and get back up. I was doing this drill. They videotaped that, and they took it back to Rorion. This was on Monday. So on Tuesday, when I went back to the gym, I was training for this. There's another guy named Carlos Valente. And I'm naming names so you can check this out. Carlos Valente was watching me train. He goes, "Oh, these guys aren't going to want to fight you because how do you know Gracie Jiu-Jitsu?" That kind of thing. So we had covered our bases. I had been training with Gene LaBelle. Howard Jackson and Bob Wall and Gene LaBelle had introduced me to the Machado brothers, so I kind of knew a little bit about it. I had the videotapes, so I kind of saw what their whole thing was: is to beat you up, take you down, turn your back, get your hooks, and choke you out. That was their game plan. So I'd already been wrestling, so we were prepared for that. When we get into the rules meeting on Thursday, Rorion changes the rules. He tells us it's this, there's no gloves, there's no shoes, can't wrap your knuckles, can't wrap your hands, you can't do this, you can't do that. So I said, well, okay, you know what? If you're going to change the rules, then I'll challenge Royce to fight now because you're setting us up. You're setting us to look bad on national TV. And I said, I'll tell you what, we could fight right now. I'll fight your brother right now. And so we challenged Royce that night. We challenged Royce, and that was, he told me I could fight Royce that night, and we did.
That was the night of the rules meeting?
That was night of the rule meeting. That's Thursday night. So we challenged Royce that night. We said, if you're going to set us up to kill, if I'm going to go out, let me go out fighting your brother. But I promise you this, he will not win this tournament. Somebody else in here might win the tournament. Might not be me, but it won't be Royce. Everybody was quiet and was willing to accept what the Gracies were going to do. I'm going to be honest with you. I was the one that stood up and said, this is BS. And I said, they're setting us up, guys. Can't you see this? They want their system to make they want their system on national TV to look better than us, and they won't give us a chance to fight. If Royce is going to come out fighting in the gi, because we had to submit. I submitted a packet from my dojo that says that if you practice in certain attire or certain equipment, that as long as you presented that to the Gracies beforehand, and that was part of your martial arts system, what you teach and what your students do, you can compete in that. And I submitted that to the Gracies in our manual, our Zane Frazier's Martial Arts Academy manual. We submitted. Our kids had wrestled, our kids boxed, our kids had Thai boxing, we had judo, we didn't have jiu-jitsu, but we had judo, we had grappling because I was trained with Gene LaBelle. So we had all of that mixed in. So we said this is what our system was. So now they get to the point they let Art Jimerson box with a glove. They have Royce fight with a gi, and then we say, well, what is kickboxing? And so they wouldn't. They says, well, kickboxing is. I says, well, don't kickboxers have gloves? Don't Thai boxers have gloves? Why can't we fight in gloves? And then Rorion just basically, he just says that's the rules, and if you don't like it, we'll tell everybody that you're chicken and that you backed out. So that's kind of how it went. So at that time, I almost turned it into a riot. I said, well, we might as well just fight right now. I'm not going to go on national TV and just have you embarrass me. When I saw Royce and his crew with him, they were standoffish, and Royce had a good game face. He had a great game face, and then Royce was ready for this fight too, not to mention. So all of those guys, and here's what I can tell you about the Brazilian guys. One of the things that I realized about the Brazilian guys, the Brazilian fighters, not just the jiu-jitsu guys, but the Vale Tudo, but their mentality was, these guys were fighters. These guys were not just a group of people or martial art people. This was a country. This was a nation of people who were street fighters. And you could see that in another street fighter. So I saw that and respected that. I just knew that I had to pick my battles because there's just too many of them. If I got in a fight with one of them, it's going to be 30 of them jumping on you. So, but I respected that, I understood that, and I liked the way he did that because it allowed me to realize, okay, I'm not at a karate tournament where I'm fighting for a trophy. I'm actually fighting for my life, or at a kickboxing match where I'm fighting for a belt or purse. This is for real. So it is what it is. And so when I saw Royce and those guys were like that, it was okay to be like that because I fit right in. I don't think a lot of guys felt, a lot of the other fighters, they were nervous. I'm gonna be honest with you, guys that may not tell you the truth, they were nervous. And they were shaking in there. A lot of those guys were not sure. But when I saw Royce like that, I said, okay, this is for real. This is the real deal.